Yeah, so let's just talk about conventions in general, at least from my perspective. I generally do two conventions a year, San Diego and New York Comic Con. They're both run by the same people. So once you sort of know some people on one side, it's easy on the other. The thing that's interesting is, as big as San Diego Comic Con is, and as much attention as it gets, they get more attendance in New York. They sell more tickets in New York, which is both interesting and a little bit odd, because the biggest difference between San Diego Comic Con and New York Comic Con is that San Diego has way, way more celebrities, and I'm talking like big celebrities. And the reason is because it's in San Diego, which is just down I-5 in California, the highway, from Hollywood. And Hollywood basically brings out their big guns, and they bring a lot of the talent, and a lot of the talent lives in the LA area. And it's easy for them to take a couple-hour drive down south and go to the show and walk into the big rooms, and and everybody has a heart attack, and then they can go back. And the media also comes to the shows, as you can imagine, since they know there's going to be Robert Downey Jr. and Dwayne Johnson and whoever is starring in the biggest movies or whatever, and so they're there to get an interview from all of them. That doesn't quite happen. Matter of fact, it's a precipitous drop in New York. Although New York is the media hub of our country, you have to, if you want to do any media, you have to go to them. And for the most part, most of the panel rooms too aren't sort of giant like they have in San Diego, where they have all H, where they make all their big announcements. I mean, they have a couple of big places. Jake and I went to a movie that was one such place. It looked like it held anywhere between 3,000 or 4,000 people, so it was a big room. So I'd never been in that room. I didn't even know they had one that big. But it uses, everybody sort of saves their bullet for their news bullets for San Diego, which makes New York, a really good place to go in and drop news and not get lost, right? You can imagine if we're doing something with NFTs or with comic books or even with toys, and you're up against, whatever's the new trailer for, the latest Spider-Man, Thor, Avengers, Batman movie, and then TV shows and a bunch of, big, announcements of, upcoming movies that they're doing. You can get buried at San Diego real quickly. So you have to, sometimes it's better to go and spread your news a week before and a week after. So, but knowing that the arena wasn't going to be that busy, we went in there. It starts on Thursday, but we specifically wanted to come out originally with the news on the movie on Tuesday. And the reason was, come out with the news on Tuesday. It was going to come out about midday, and then go and do a bunch of media off-site of the New York Comic Con on Wednesday, because the show starts Thursday. And when I got to the shows in the morning, then everybody would have had the news and everybody had been talking about it. As it was, and I landed in New York on Monday night, I had a text waiting that said, "Hey, is there any way we can bump this to the next day instead of Tuesday to Wednesday?" There was a lot of moving parts, and somebody wasn't comfortable with something, and I get it. I've been there before. The bummer is that then they were going to release the news instead of midday Tuesday. They were going to release it at noon on Wednesday, but I had like 5 or 6 interviews lined up in the morning, starting at 6 in the morning, and they were all based on hey, you want to bring in Todd because he's going to have some, news is going to be hitting about his movie, blah, blah, blah. So some of them were not too impressed when I got there and said, hey, the reason you booked me, I can't talk about. Let's talk about something else. So anyway, but they're some, they get bummed out, but it's not the first time, right? It happens. But finally on Wednesday, at noon New York time, we were able to sort of drop the news of the writers that have been working behind the scenes on the Bond movie uh, for a bit. One of them for a long time during the pandemic. I keep telling people, like, guys, like, we're stuff is happening during the pandemic. You got to trust me. The problem is that you say to people publicly, hey, we're doing stuff. Trust me. It has a expiration date on it, right? Because they're like, yeah, Todd, you've been telling us for a long time, right? So, and as aggravating as it is that Hollywood takes so long, the process is really that we're in is really kind of way closer to the norm. I hate to say it. So I think the first time we made any announcement was when I picked up Jason Blum in Blumhouse, who, at that point was known for, releasing Get Out. And obviously they do all the horror movies. I'm pretty sure that was San Diego Comic-Con 2017. So it's been 5 years. So it's not like a short amount of time. But there was a pandemic in between that, right? So there's 2 years where a lot of stuff wasn't getting made, and Hollywood as a whole was getting shut down. Theaters were getting shut down. Production was getting shut down. So, you can almost back out 2 years out of it. So that still means 3 years. But I've talked to plenty of people in that city that they take anywhere between 5 and 12 years to get their stuff off the ground. So that's why I have a day job. But the news that we dropped, I'm sure most of you sort of saw it someplace, hopefully, was that we added the guy who wrote the Joker movie and the guy who wrote the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. When the pandemic came, everybody shut down, and it was one of the sort of first things that came out on Disney Plus during the pandemic. He's also currently writing the Captain America 4 movie. So, most people don't know. And the two gentlemen's names, Scott Silver, the Joker writer, and Malcolm Spellman, the Captain America writer. And there's another young kid, Matthew Mixon. Most people don't know the names, even directors. I keep saying, I think most people, if you say, name me 3 directors, otherwise your kids that die, I think there'd be a lot of dead kids. I think the majority of kids would be dead. So we know the names of people in front of the screen. We don't really know the people behind the screen. What you do know is their work, right? Which is why you see trailers that say from the producers of, and then they list whatever the movie is, from the director of, and then they list the director's movie, and from the writers of, whatever it is, right? You see that. I mean, obviously, if it's an actor, you just say their name, or you say Academy Award nominated actor or Academy Award winning actor, and you put their name up there. So, if I say, hey, we got Scott Silver and Malcolm Spellman, I'm not going to see a lot of eyebrows sort of raised. But if I put up the Joker poster when I'm making an announcement, people go, "What? The Joker? Hold a sec, the guy who wrote the Joker, right?" That's all they care about. I saw the Joker, and either I liked it or I didn't like it, and that you got the guy who wrote it. That's either a bonus or a negative. So, and you can get people to respond that much. The funny thing was, I wanted to make the announcement actually at San Diego, and then I decided the last minute it was a little bit crowded, and I go, nah, we'll wait to go to New York Comic Con because it'll be a little, sort of clearer. I think the news will travel further. And they're like, yeah, cool, Todd, whatever. But then even leading up to New York, the writers are sort of curious, like, what? So, and the answer is because done right, and with you guys' big street cred, that you guys are the equivalent of announcing like an actor, right? I say I got the writer of the Joker. What are you talking about? To the geeks of the world, that matters, and it matters in a big way. Just like if you bring on an actor that they like, it matters in a big way. So you guys have been sort of behind the camera and been sort of second citizens in your mind at times. Sometimes I don't think you guys, I know you realize your value when you're negotiating a deal and then when you're in Hollywood, but you still have a lot of value outside of it, and you're still celebrities outside of it just by your work, right? I run into people all the time. What are you talking about? If I'm at the dentist and somebody says, "What do you do?" and I go, "I do comic books," and I'm like, "Oh, that's cute," right? Like, "Oh, that's cute." Well, yeah, it was so whatever. And I go, yeah, I used to work at Marvel. And all of a sudden you say the word Marvel and they're like, oh my God. And then you go, yeah, I co-created this character called Venom. They're like, what? You created Venom? Right? All of a sudden, boom, instant street cred because you created something that they've heard of. And that's why I wanted to do it, because the next piece of news that we drop hopefully will just be that we sold the movie and the deal's done and we got the money and we've actually got a production date and we're off to the rate, maybe even potentially even release at least a generic release date at that point, but at least that the deal's done and we're going into production. So that'd be the next big news. And I didn't want to wait so long between news of that and nothing. So I go, guys, we got to say something just so that they know that there's momentum on this movie. And part of it is that what they should be saying is, why would the Captain America and the Joker writer join the Spawn project if it wasn't going to be getting made? Right? These are A+ talented people. Why would they join a project? And why would Jamie Foxx still be interested if they thought it wasn't going to get made? And the answer is because we all think it's going to get made. And not only is it going to get made, it's going to be successful, and we're going to make multiple. So that's sort of, and you just wait till we start doing casting. It's going to be even easier because people are going to want, actors are going to want to be on projects that have a team of A-listers, and we got an A-list, producer in Jason. Besides all the horror, 3 of his movies have been nominated for Academy Awards. You've got, Jamie, who won an Academy Award for his performance as Ray Charles, and then you've got these writers, and Scott Silver for Joker was nominated for an Academy Award for writing when that movie came out. So people, if you're an actor, if you want to invest money or whatever, you want to put it near people who've got track records. And we're just putting together this team that has a high pedigree of success, have made people money. And at the end of the day, I'll be the weak link. I'll be the weak link in the project. So, and so there was that. I don't know if you guys got any questions on that end.
All I heard was that there's going to be multiple Spawn movies. So
yeah,
that really caught my.
That's the goal. That's the goal. The goal isn't to sell one movie and get in and out. The goal is to create a franchise so that you have multiple movies, not unlike, you can look at it from 2 points of view. You have the superhero one, so you've seen multiple Iron Man, Captain America, Batman, Supermans, all those ones. Even, you're seeing sequels to Aquaman and some of the other characters, Venom, that are sort of the next tier down characters. But Jason Blum, who's been attached to some of the biggest horror franchises in cinema that are up to parts 5, 6, 7. I mean, I don't even know how many Purge there are, right? So he's used to preparing for a long run of something that could maybe last for 10, 12, 15, 20 years. Who knows, right? Done right. So we'll see. That's the goal. That's the ambition by everybody. And we've got a lot of talent that's helping us sort of work towards that goal.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. Yeah, Jason Blum is amazing. He's like insane.
Really good.
And then he helped on Paranormal Activity, I'm pretty sure. So he knows his way around the horror for sure.
Yeah, he came back a couple of years ago. I mean, more than a couple of years because I keep skipping over the pandemic. But when they relaunched the Halloween franchise, right? The last Halloween that came out.
Yes.
It I think made $77 million. And at that point was the single biggest opening ever for R-rated movie in cinema history. And then probably like a week later or something like that, Venom came out, if I recall right. But it's still the single biggest horror opening ever at $77 million for an R-rated movie, right? And then you've got the new one coming out here. I don't know if it's this weekend or whatever. That's called Halloween Ends. So, yeah, he's a very ambitious man. He's very skilled. He knows how to make things go very far on tight budgets because that was sort of where he was raised, on making these horror movies and making them work for not that much money. I mean, obviously now he gets bigger budgets and he's got a big first look deal at Universal. But he's had the taste of being nominated for Academy Awards, and I he even did an interview where he goes, "I'd like to win an Academy Award just once." Now, Spawn's not going to do it for him because it's not that type of movie. But I'm trying to think what the three movies were. One of them was a movie called Whiplash. If you've never seen it, it's pretty phenomenal. The other one was Get Out, and then I'm trying to think what the third one was recently. I think it might have been Black Klansman. The true story about the guy who infiltrated the Ku Klux Klan that Spike Lee directed. I think that was the other one. So I mean, none of those are horror. I mean, I guess Get Out was a psychological thriller. A little bit less than what I would call a horror movie, but he's done a wide range. He's done a wide range of stuff, and he knows that what he also doesn't have is a franchise outside of horror, which would also expand his sort of street cred and his resume in the city of Hollywood that wants to constantly pigeonhole you. So he's looking to broaden his horizons too, which is good for us. So.
Awesome. Spawn from the audience actually has a question. He says, Todd, lately Whatnot, a secondary market site for comic books, has been gaining a huge following. In the past at Comic-Cons, it is my understanding that retail outlets would make deals to get comics signed before lines at the signing booth. But with Whatnot sellers, I hear that they would get in lines with stacks of comics to the maximum and have others in line sign for them. This year, I hear it caused a big fight in Peach Momoko line to the point where she shut down the signing early that day. He wants to know your thoughts on that and if you've ever had to deal with fights in your lines.
Well, as a sidebar, I got to meet Peach Momoko I was doing a bit of a private signing because I'm doing a CGC signing in December, but the pile's already gotten big, so they brought some of the books to New York just to say, "Hey, Todd, you want to make a dent in it, right?" In advance, and they can start doing some grading in it. Peach was doing her very first signing ever. She came in and was doing it. What was interesting was, it used to be that if you did 800 books, 1,000 books, that was a lot, right? I mean, there was a time where the most books ever signed by one person at one private signing was just over 2,000, and that was Stanley. And they, I remember the reason I know that because they came to my office and I had got the word out that it's like I was going to sort of shut down these signings for a couple of years, and I ended up signing over 4,000. And they said, "Todd, this is the record, right? We never done 4,000." And I was asking what the record was, and they said, "Oh, we did, just over 2,000 with Stan. So you sort of doubled the record." And then I ended up doing a signing right before the pandemic in January 2020. It was 2020, yeah. And I think we ended up getting 17,000, right? So we took the record that we broke by 100 and then broke it by another 300. So anything over 1,000, 2,000 is, that was Stan Lee territory. Anyways, Peach was sitting next to me and I said, "Hey, I could see all the boxes." I go, "How many does she have?" And they said, "Oh, she just got over 3,000. Now, that's a giant number, right? That's a giant number. And so I was watching her signing because I was signing while she was signing. And I was watching her as she sat down and she started a little bit late. And she started signing and she was being very nice, very, very kind lady. And she was signing, but she was signing slow. And I'm like, "Oh my God, I don't think she understands how many 3,000 is," right? So they were projecting that she was going to be there till midnight. And every time I looked over at her, like every 20 minutes, half an hour, her signature was getting faster, right? Because I think she quickly understood, "Oh my God, I'm going to be here all night." So I kept looking, I kept getting a little bit faster, but I still, she wants to give a nice signature or whatever. I didn't even look at the signature to see how nice it is or not, but it seemed like it. She wanted to, make sure it was a decent signature for everybody. So the next day I phoned the CGC people and said, "Hey, how, because Pete went and took a break to go for dinner and then came back and go, how late was she there till?" Right? And I went, 2:30 in the morning, right? So she was selling till 2:30 in the morning, but welcome to the world, Pete. You're going to have to figure out either how to go faster or break those sessions into a couple of days because you can't start at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and go, "Yeah, I'm going to do 3,000 and expect to have any kind of normal sleep that night." So, but it's all new to her. She comes, from overseas, so it's not something that she does, and it's not a thing in other countries like we do here. So, but fights. I mean, I've been around a long time, so I've had fights. Everything from other creative people threatening me. Right, I had one at San Diego where I can't remember why. I know what it was. I was next to a creator, and I was in my heyday on Spider-Man or something maybe. But anyways, the line was massively long, and they didn't have any crowd control, and so people started spreading. So instead of queuing up one at a time, they were spreading like left and right, and then coming down sort of every aisle. Basically, the thing that agitated this other creative guy was that they were blocking his line, so nobody could get to his line. So, and I kept sort of trying to corral people and say, hey, guys, can you get in line here because you're interfering over here? I mean, I was doing my best, but he wasn't going to have anything to do with it, and at the end was sort of, getting pissed off or whatever else, and started shouting at me and whatever. And the next day we did it again, and again you can imagine on Saturday it was even worse, and he got even more agitated, and then he started threatening he was going to beat the shit out of me. Right now, let me just say, physically, I'm an athlete. This guy was far from it. Right, so it was more of a hollow threat, but I was like, oh yeah, but he kept saying to me, he goes, you get in my fucking face, Todd, I'm gonna clean your clock. Right? He goes, I'll take you down, I'll clean your clock, dude. So on the last day, I decided to be a little bit of a bugger, and I went out to a store and I bought like one of these little wind-up alarm clocks that you see, like, where you can crank it in the back and set the time, and it's got the little bells up on top that you see kind of in the Looney Tune cartoons. I bought a clock, and then I took it outside someplace, and I got it wet, and I dumped it in the mud, and then I fucking put that clock right in his spot and just left it there. That was it. Like, here. And then I went away and I had to come back and grab my stuff at the end of the day. And to his credit, I'll give him credit. When I came back, the clock was now in front of my name tag, and it was in pristine condition. He actually literally cleaned my clock. So I give him brownie points that he sort of took my joke to him and sent it back, and we were okay after that. So it never turned into anything more than some sort of silly conversation. I've been at places where they move you from one place to another, so people lose the place in line. And then I was in Boston one time, and they had us in a corner, and the crowd started pushing, so it got to the point where you actually had thoughts of like you're going to get crushed because the crowd just was getting unruly, and there was no place to go because you're up against a wall. I remember after my wife was with me. That was I was early in my career, and my wife didn't come to too many. But after that one, we didn't do conventions for a couple of years. She was just like thought they were just unsafe, and there was no security, and again, because it may be hard for people to imagine a little bit who've been to New York and Comic Con, where it's like they're giant and huge. That wasn't true back when I was starting my career, and with what happened to like Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld and Mark Silvestri and myself and a couple other people, when the Wizard magazine came out and they started putting the top 10 and they put pictures of you, that people started recognizing who you were, and then you do a popular book. Spider-Man was selling, and then after that, Spawn was selling, and so the whole thing of being, kind of a quasi rock star if you're at a comic convention, that nobody thought that you needed to queue up lines and that you needed to have stanchions and that you needed to have security, because they're like, it's just comic book people. There's usually 10 people in line at all times, right? So it was a learning process for all of us. There was another one where a guy, this one was in Vegas, and same thing. He got mad because my line was 100 times bigger than his, and he just started getting ornery. And I was like, dude, I don't control these people here, right? So, but then he started threatening and doing stuff, and then my wife was at that one, and then he popped off and said something to her. Now, unlike Ted Cruz, I defend my wife, and I just went, whoa, what'd you just say? And at that point, it was like, you don't fucking talk to my wife like that. And so we got nose to nose. And then the guy goes, he got so fucking enraged. And then he's like, I got a gun. I got a gun in my car. I'm going to go get my fucking gun. I'm going to be back. I'm going to fucking blow your head off, right? And this guy was road rage. I know people who have that. So it's like they have hair triggers. And sadly, it only takes a couple seconds for them to do something stupid. So all of a sudden that guy took off, and I went to go follow him because I go, I'm not going to let this guy out of my sight, right? And try to grab some police that were there, but eventually they just made him leave the show and gathered up his stuff and sent him away and made him drive away. And then even, I want to say it was the last New York Comic Con that I was at prior to this one before the pandemic. So that would have been New York Comic Con 2019. And we were doing exclusives. We were selling this exclusive comic book, and I think there was only 1,500 or something like that. And somebody on my staff decided, without checking with me, that they were going to sell, 500 a day or 400 a day, so the comic books would last all 4 days. I've always been against that because the goal, if you have 1,500 books, is to sell at the end of the day 1,500 books. If you can sell them all on Thursday, who cares? Who cares? The money's the same and the sellout is the same, right? Why do you want to string it along all the way to Sunday and do it? But here's the downside of it. The first day you sell 400 and people were buying them and they were putting them up on eBay and they were buying them for, I think it was $25. And they were putting them on eBay for 400. So once everybody saw that, they went, what? You can buy a $25 item and sell for $400? Shit, I'm buying it. I mean, I think there are people in the NFT that have that mentality, right? I don't really care what it is. If I can flip it, double my money, cool. So we sold the 400, and then anybody past 400 is like, well, how come I can't get one? We're like, no, we're going to sell another 400 tomorrow on Friday. So you can imagine then Friday, there's a lineup before the show opens up, and as soon as they open up, there's this rush to our booth. Okay. And now, if you got more than 400 people, again, somebody didn't get it on Thursday, somebody didn't get it on Friday, and now they're going, whoa. And now on Saturday, what are you going to do? I think Saturday was the last day, so I think it was 500. So now Saturday's going to be the last day. So what do you think happens on Saturday? Saturday now, people now know it's day 3. There's only 500. So what happens if you have more than 500 people in line? Somebody knows at some point they're going to get locked out. And there is no lineup. If you've been to San Diego, you can just sort of come up to booth. There's no way to queue people up. And once they see that stack going down and that there's only 20 left and there's still 500 people wanting it and there's 220 and there's 500 people wanting it, woo, it gets testy. And so at the last one, when we got down near the end, somebody in line up front pulled the knife and threatened my workers with a knife and threatened some of the people behind him because he was bound and determined that he was going to get one of the last books. So, luckily he never used the weapon. Security had to come, had to shut down our booth. We had to stop selling. And, again, I sort of reminded my staff of why you just sell out and just put sold out after that. And, that's one less item you got to do. I mean, and it's what we did at San Diego this year. They have a sort of a prequel night on Wednesday, then you have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. By the end of Wednesday, I think we had 6 items. 2 of them were sold out. By Thursday, I think they were all sold out except for some trade paperback. Like, done. And they're like, oh my God, Todd, what are we going to do? It's like we brought them to sell, we sold. So now we only got 1 item. So now you guys are going to have a relaxing weekend. You don't have to worry now that you got to sell, all these items and people yelling and screaming. You got one thing, like sell, right? At some point you're in the commerce business. Sell it, right? You don't take your 500 NFTs for sale and spread it out over 5 days to make it even for somebody who might be at work that day. You sell it to the 500 people that can be there. Done. But as I just recount it to you, that sometimes it can get a little messy at times. So anyway, even at San Diego, when somebody wanted to get in the Hall H and somebody cut them off and they thought they were queuing them up, and somebody literally took out a pen. They took out a pen and literally was stabbing. No, it was. I'm trying to think what it wasn't a pen. It might have been like a wand or something. It was like a Harry Potter thing. I don't know what they were holding, and they started stabbing, literally stabbing the person in front of them. So they had to shut down San Diego Comic-Con for a while and started doing new rules for how you get in line and all those other things to keep everybody's anxiety down.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, that is insane.
Yeah.
It's sad that people ruin the fun.
There's always got to be those people.
Yeah, what are you talking about? There's always you got a lot of apples in a cart. A couple of them get rotten. So, right, and they ruin the fun. They ruin the fun for a lot of people. So,
Yeah.
but luckily, 99.9% of people are good people, and will abide by the rules and behave and do what they're supposed to do. So, it's okay. You don't let the one knucklehead ruin it for the others, right? You just, instead of saying, man, some guy came and pulled a knife, you just go, yeah, but there's 5,000 people who didn't pull a knife, right? Why don't we talk about the 5,000 who didn't pull a knife? They were all good people. They were all reasonable, right? The other thing about conventions too,
Very true.
people always ask me about conventions, and they did it again here. It's saying, hey Todd, they always ask the same question. Hey Todd, how's your convention going? The answer is always the same, and I've said it before, I think, here in some of our talk. The answer is always the same. Fucking awesome. It's going fucking awesome. And here's why it's awesome. Because when you go to a show, and, I've had a decent career and got a certain status, people just get in line to say nice things. They want their stuff signed, and they just come, and all they do all day long is constantly say nice things about you. Right? I don't understand how you can have a bad convention. If anything, not only do you have a great convention, it's a false positive. Don't get too high on yourself, because once you walk out the doors, you're back to being normal, right? So if you're in the right room, then you're kind of a big shot. But once you walk out, and even at the conventions themselves, right? Because they've done surveys, and they've shown now at these big shows that 17% of the people are there for comic books, and the other 83% are there for some other reason.